part of that process was we had some pieces that contained way too much information to go on a wall, and decided that a kiosk, a freestanding kiosk or two, would help contain and hold a lot of that content.
Hi, everyone. Another great testimonial conversation with a partner in Kansas, Cogent Ideas. So we had Julie Tucker join us for this conversation and had an opportunity to talk about her customer, which is an association, it's a professional association. And she'll talk a little bit more about, why they were implementing digital signage. But the story is we ended up getting brought in by Cogent Ideas to complete the development of the interactive content. So it ended up being a great project. Great. Miguel, again, went above and beyond, providing great customer support. Anything that viewers should look forward to in the interview?
I think for those viewers who are looking for a solution that's standalone and doesn't require a cloud service and just a hardware, bright sign device that should be running without any interference, if the internet were to go out or security concerns. Yeah, this is a standalone project where the device is running however long it needs to in a day, and it's secure, no internet connection. So if that goes out, it'll still continue to play. And really just, if you're looking for that history of a company or a museum type, this is definitely a project that will fit exactly what you're looking for. So we're excited to talk to Julie and get some feedback on how everything went and how the project has been received.
We hope you enjoy it.
Hi, Julie.
Hi.
Thanks for joining us.
Good to be here. Good to see you guys.
It's a pleasure to introduce Julie Tucker with Cogent Ideas. Julie, where are you located?
We're in Topeka, Kansas.
All right. Excellent. And if we could just have you explain a little bit for the viewers what kind of work you do at Cogent Ideas, what your role is on the team, we think that'd be helpful.
Sure. Our organization has been around for 32 years, and during the entirety of that time, we've been a marketing, advertising, solution-based company, and we specialize in agriculture, and more specifically in the cattle business. So we have a very defined niche, and as any small business knows, part of the key to survival is being nimble. So over the years, we started out as a traditional service bureau with some creative, and we've evolved and been nimble and tried to adjust to what our clients need more than anything. And to the point we are today, where we're doing things we never would have dreamt of doing when we started.
Very good. And this project we had, gosh, was it January, February timeframe?
I think so, yeah.
Yeah. A couple of months, but we had a wonderful opportunity to work with your team, and thank you for guiding that. And Cogent provided a lot of the designs, and then we came in and developed it for you. But can you describe a little bit, Julie, the nature of the customer and kind of what we were doing for your customer as a whole?
Certainly. They are a 150-year-old member-based organization, and they obviously have a very deep, rich history. And a few years ago, as a result of the pandemic and their offices being emptied, they needed to do some remodeling. So they went ahead and tackled a remodel project. And when it was all said and done, they had a lot of blank, clean, empty walls, and decided it would be a good opportunity to develop a timeline on all those walls that they could use as a guide for tours. They have a lot of members, they have a lot of organizations that come in and get tours of their office. And that timeline would enable them to be able to help tell that story. So they called us in to be a third party, non-objective. We know the industry, but weren't steeped in the day-to-day of their activities, that we could organize that and create a piece for all the walls that would tell that story. So we told it relative to the industry, and still working on it, but part of that process was we had some pieces that contained way too much information to go on a wall, and decided that a kiosk, a freestanding kiosk or two, would help contain and hold a lot of that content, that the guests could go through and read all of it, bits and pieces of it, flip through it. It also change up the experience a lot. So we identified the hardware we wanted to use, and unknowingly at the time, thought we could develop the content, quickly realized we couldn't, and called your team and didn't give y'all much time to respond, quite honestly. But you did a great job, stepped up to the plate, understood the assignment, and we all hands on deck. The other thing that Creating Margins worked with us on is they did not do the install. We did the install. So they were available remotely to help me through that. We found out there were some technical problems, as is the nature of the beast. And I'm so appreciative because Matt and McGill hung in there with me hour after hour until we got it up and going. And not just up and going. There are probably some levels I would have said, it's okay, it's working. But their name was on it too, and they wanted it right, which ultimately I really, really appreciate. So at the end of the day, not only did the customer get a really good product, they got a functional product that works perfectly. And we worked around a huge hurdle with it, but ended up with an equally good solution.
We did a few things, right, Miguel? There were multiple kiosks,
Yeah.
a couple different applications.
Yeah, I think that's where that's where the fun in the project comes. Is we don't just work on one single kiosk, it's multiple kiosks. In terms of interactivity, it's similar where people want to interact and touch the screen and see different things move around. But overall, I believe it was 3 different kiosks. Each one had its own design, unique history that I was trying to portray for the company. The nice thing was that the hurdles that each one had was the same thing. So it's like once we got one up and running, the rest were like, okay, let's follow the same process. But I think overall, though, our teams work great. When it comes to, I think that's the last step is getting it to fully work on site and trying to get it to work remote. But with our team and Julie, being there in person really made sure that, hey, the solution may not be here right now, but we kept making progress. And at the end of the day, we found something that finally worked. And it just makes the experience overall a lot more exciting when you can finally, after so much time spent, you finally click the button and it works. And, everything's like it finally, comes together. So now that that solution's been up and running for a few months, how has it been received internally? How have you heard anything about how the tours are going? Like, has it enhanced the experience?
Absolutely. And everyone loves it. First of all, they don't have to do anything with it. So from a management standpoint, they're great tools that are hands-free pretty much. They turn them on and turn them off, and that's all they have to do. So that is great. So we don't have to provide a lot of technical support on that. But everyone that has been in really likes being able to go through that and see the history and read about the people that have been enrolled into their honorary member program. And there's just so much information there. And there's even takeaway from it in the fact that we provided QR codes on the videos that they can scan and take away the video and go watch it later. And there's another kiosk with the former executives all displayed and some bio and information on them that is really wonderful and interesting to go back and see how some of the documents have changed through the years that they use.
Yeah, I think the what I enjoyed about this project was, learning about the history of the company. I mean, especially going back 150 years, going through some of the images, I could see, some old paperwork that was done and seeing how things have advanced. So I can only imagine how more, more exciting it is for someone who's really invested in that industry and is curious about the actual history to be able to go back those years and realize, wow, we've come this far. And being able to again, just see it all in one spot instead of trying to, have to move around different locations or be like, oh, where can I find this information? It's right there, right in front of them.
And they have volumes. I mean, they have a whole basement full of historical artifacts. And what we quickly discussed with them and amongst our own team is that what we're doing is a timeline, but they have enough materials and content and history that a museum could actually be built at some point. So, it's hard to know where to start and stop when you have that large amount of resources, which is wonderful. But we had to define what our project was, and that is a timeline, that is an overview of their history. But the artifacts that they have are amazing, and it really has helped us tell that story.
Did you lead, Julie, with the idea of digital signage and a kiosk mounted on the wall in one case, freestanding in another? Did you lead with that idea, or did you start with the wall? I know you used vinyl wall graphics as well, but how did digital signage enter the conversation there?
It actually was part of the initial design, and where the two freestanding kiosks are housed is in a library. And so there's quite a bit of room in there for guests to move around, sit down, where they can set out snacks, that kind of thing. So when we started the project, it was important to understand the function of that room and the workflow, or not necessarily the workflow, but the tour flow through the office and what that experience would be like. So we started having those conversations from the get-go and breaking down the content, what needed to go into that library, knowing it was the beginning section of the tour. Those kiosks were part of that conversation from the get-go.
You had specified bright sign, I believe, that we arrived in the picture. Obviously, you mentioned that the level of effort ended up being an opportunity for you to bring us into the picture. But any more details, maybe, Miguel, you could speak to the hardware solution that was used and just sort of how we constructed that with Julie and her team.
Yeah, definitely. So the main hardware is bright sign. But we did the kiosks themselves are I believe a different, not bright sign just does the hardware, it's the bright sign devices. The kiosk kind of really just depends on what the customer is looking for. But at the end of the day, bright sign is powering the actual interactivity. And the unique thing about this one is it's all locally hosted. So it's not on the cloud. It's not connected to, it doesn't really need to be connected to internet once it's all set up. So the nice thing is we designed it so it's fully independent. It's meant to just run, for however many years they want to have that content. And it's really just all custom HTML, making sure to add that interactivity for buttons and making sure, you click something and it does this instantly rather than, if it's with the cloud, you click something, it might need to send some commands through the internet before it can activate. So really it's perfect for, if you want that museum kind of vibe to the interactivity where you can just click, get instant results and not really have to worry about, if the internet goes out, this kiosk is, out of commission. So at the end of the day, just using BrightSign really gave us that power to make sure it's standalone. It'll run for however many years it's going to be there and kind of not worry about any issues with internet or outside of, if there's a power outage. But, in that case, I don't really think anyone's going to be there. So
Nobody's going to be
it's not really anything to worry about.
That's a good point because that helped us address an IT solution or IT problem that we ran into along the way. That was a huge stumble or a huge speed bump for us. And it ended up working out great. I'm sorry, Matt, I stepped on you.
I was just going to ask, how do you position, Julie, the digital signage and particularly interactive digital signage with your customers? What do you think the real advantages are and what led you to, even early on be better than a wall graphic or a book of, different Xerox pages or the real things? What do you consider to be the advantages of this technology?
I think it's twofold, Matt. And the first being you look at the level of the volume of content you have. And a lot of times, this case in particular, it drives you to a different device to tell that story. The creative side of it is the other layer. And understanding and developing that guest experience through it all. You try to make it a little more three-dimensional, a little more interactive. Interactive, I'm duplicating use of that word, but engaging, if you will, for that guest. So by having graphics on the wall, we have a few videos on the wall as well, but the kiosk allow them to stop and start engaging in something that's part of the client's story. So we layer that experience now. It's not all two-dimensional and flat.
Yeah, and I know we've discussed the, a second part two for the project right now, and we're just, just kind of letting you know we are wanting it to be more. I don't want to use the word interactive, but I guess kind of taking it outside of the digital kiosk touchscreen to more physical like ways to interact with it. And we've here in Creative Margin, we're always looking to improve and provide new solutions and kind of what's the next step. So we have been doing some internal testing for our own purposes in terms of how can we have a physical button that they can click, or how can someone stand in front of something and trigger something, and if they take a step back, change the layout. I think your client and their current project has been at the forefront of my mind in terms of, you brought us, hey, we want to maybe do this cool thing, but we don't know how crazy can it be done. So we've been experimenting with some things and kind of getting that idea of, oh, someone is in front of it and they take one step back or move. How can we change? How can we portray a different part of history for your customers? So, we're excited. Hopefully you guys are still thinking about that, but we are excited to let you know, hey, we're developing internally to bring more wow to that tour that your customer has in their, office.
That's awesome. And McGill, you hit on something that has been so wonderful about this project and working with you all, is that you bring creativity to the table. You bring ideas to the table. And I, by nature, am not the creative part of our team. I handle the linear, boring side of things. But to be part of those discussions with our creative team and you all, that's fun. That's exciting. That's when we do things none of us thought of. We challenge each other to really make that a cool experience for our customer and their guests. So that exchange has been beneficial, it's been fun, and in the end, it really gets us a product that is best suited for the project.
Thank you so much. Thanks for being generous with your time and joining us today. Did we miss anything, guys?
I think so. Yeah.
My pleasure. Anytime, guys.
We really do look forward to working with you again, and we'll talk to you soon.
Likewise. Thank you.
All right.
Thank you, Julie.
Right. Well, that was Julie Tucker with Cogent Ideas. Again, talked a little bit about the project we had earlier in this year, 2025. Great company to work with. We highly recommend them. They were great throughout. Advocates for their customer, really helped lead the effort from a creative standpoint.
Yeah.
On behalf of their customers. So they were really happy to play a part in the success of the project. Thanks for joining us for another testimonial video here.
See you in the next one.